This is insane, you guys. I'm shocked by this news. So let me set the stage for you guys. I'm at PT, I'm rehabbing my knee, doing my dry needling, my squats, my lifting, all this stuff. And I get an ESPN notification come across my phone that says Neko Gumake becomes the first player known to join.
You're not going to believe this. The president of the WNBA Players Association just made a move that's shaking the entire foundation of women's basketball. Nneka Ogwumike, one of the most respected names in the league, has officially signed with a Saudi-funded league designed to compete directly with the WNBA, not complement it, not support it, compete with it. And she made this move right in the middle of the most sensitive labor talks in league history. Now think about that for a second. The person leading negotiations for every WNBA player, the face of unity and collective progress, just joined an organization that could dismantle everything she helped build. This isn't just a twist. This is a potential turning point in the entire story of women's sports. But here's where it gets wild. No one's talking about what this really means.
Will rival the WNBA. It's a 5v5 league. It is backed by Saudi Arabian money. So essentially a lot of money is backing this league. It's in Europe and Asia. The games will be played overseas for 14 weeks and they want 66 players. And the very first one to be announced is next.
This new league doesn't want to work with the WNBA. It wants to replace it. Straight up. And the money backing it? The same deep pockets that took over golf with Eliv shook up global soccer and proved they don't care about ratings, viewership, or even tradition. They care about control. Meanwhile, the WNBA is deep in negotiation battles over revenue splits, salary caps, and scheduling rights. But here's the conflict no one's addressing. Most of the players sitting at that bargaining table already have ownership or investment ties to. But you can't play elsewhere. They're not just debating money, they're challenging personal empires. That's not negotiation. That's an all-out collision course.
She said in an interview with the Associated Press, she said that the compensation package was key to her signing with Project B. She said it's not something that's usually offered to us, and by us, I mean women athletes. So for there to be an entry level of equity across—
And the Saudi-backed offer? It's staggering. Massive upfront money, perks the WNBA can't compete with, and the kicker, equity stakes in the league itself. Sounds revolutionary on the surface, but dig deeper, and it's not what it seems. Equity is a long game. You don't cash it in next season or even next year. You're betting on a league that doesn't exist yet to one day be profitable. But the illusion works. It sounds like ownership, like empowerment, when really it's a gamble wrapped in gold. Still, that's all it took to change everything. Because for players staring down decades of low pay, the promise of real ownership feels irresistible. And that's where this gets dangerous.
But they have promoted themselves as a league that wants to rival the WNBA. When Unrivaled was coming out with their league, they always said that they don't want it to compete with the WNBA. It is something that's completely different. It's 3v3, it's all of these things. That was that, and the WNBA still doesn't like that, okay? Do you think for 1 second—
Nneka's exact words were, "This is just another one of those opportunities." Read that again. Another opportunity, as if the WNBA, the league she leads, is just one stop among many. And you know what? She's not wrong, but she's also the one person who can't afford to think like that. As president of the Players Association, her job is to represent everyone, not just the stars at the top. Yet by taking this deal, she's effectively divided her loyalties. Because Project B, this Saudi-backed league, isn't offering contracts to every player. They're handpicking the top 66. The stars, the marketable names. Everyone else, they're left out in the cold. So if these negotiations break down and the WNBA locks out, where do the rest of the players go? Nowhere. And that's when the dream becomes a nightmare.
By Saudi money, no other league is going to be able to compete, even the WNBA. No other league is going to be able to compete with the amount of money that they will pay players. And the thing is, they will pay these players and they don't care if the league ever profits. They don't care if people watch. They don't care if people tune in. They don't care if there's butts in seats. They're gonna—
If you want a preview of what happens next, look at golf. When LV challenged the PGA averaged over 3 million viewers for major events. Liv barely scraped 400,000. But the players who jumped ship didn't care, because the Saudis paid 10 times more. They didn't buy the audience, they bought the narrative. They turned a sport into a billboard. It wasn't about ratings or competition. It was about legitimacy. Sports washing. And now, that same blueprint is being redrawn for women's basketball. And make no mistake, the playbook is clear. Buy the stars. Buy the headlines. Buy the loyalty. Then claim you've built something better.
Project B, which intends to stream its games, will see players competing on a traveling circuit just like golf, tennis, and auto racing. I'm sorry, this is just crazy. Like, we haven't seen anything like this in professional sports, okay? We truly haven't. We want premier cities, and our goal is to create an F1 style team.
Their plan? Think global. Project B is designed like Formula One. An international traveling spectacle with massive arenas, celebrity investors, and a world champion finale. It's not just a league, it's a production. And at first glance, it sounds great. More opportunities for women to play professionally. But peel back the marketing gloss, and you'll see the danger. Fragmentation, confusion, oversaturation. The WNBA just had its biggest year in history. Record viewership.
In hell that they can keep that momentum going to a different league, especially a league that is going to be overseas. Yes, you might get some global basketball fans involved, but I personally just don't see it. And so I don't blame the players for taking the money, but if anybody thinks that this league is just going to immediately rival the WNBA and put up crazy, like I said, the results of this league don't matter. So I don't know how this affects the WNBA.
Then came the voice no one expected. Candace Parker. A legend, a champion, and now a face of Project B. She said, "Players have carried this game for years without a real stake in its future." Translation: the WNBA didn't do enough, and maybe she's right. But her support for a rival league sends a message louder than any contract dispute. We can make it without you. That's power. That's leverage. But it's also a ticking time bomb. Because if the top names all split off, they'll take the spotlight, but they'll leave behind the system that built them. And when that happens, nobody wins.
It's those players who are coming in on hardship contracts. It's those players who want to stay in the States and their dream was to play for the WNBA. Like, those are the players who are most affected if the WNBA season stalls, if the WNBA season locks out. This Project B is talking about the top 66 players. I doubt that they care about some hardship player who's coming in and out.
The players at the top will always land on their feet. But what about the ones fighting for 10-day contracts or trying to make their first roster spot? For them, this isn't strategy, it's survival. When stars chase investment deals and global tours, the rest are left scraping for minutes in a shrinking league. If the WNBA season collapses under a lockout, those players have nowhere to go. No contracts, no salaries, no safety net. Project B isn't signing role players. Unrivaled isn't offering equity to benchwarmers. So while the top 1% builds their legacies, the other 99% lose their livelihood. That's the harsh truth behind the glamorous headlines. The foundation of women's basketball is built on the backs of players who will never trend on social media. And those are the ones who'll pay the price.
Promotes their league as the rival league to the WNBA. And again, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It could be getting so bad that NECA's like, you know what? Everybody else at this table, all of these women that I have been fighting for, everyone else at this table is signed with somebody else. Why can't I? Why can't I take a bigger paycheck?
And here's the real irony. From Annika's perspective, it almost makes sense. When everyone else at that table has a backup plan, a side deal, a league, an investment, why shouldn't she? Why be the only one left exposed? It's pure game theory, every person protecting their own future, but collectively creating chaos. The prisoner's dilemma, everyone acting in self-interest and everyone losing because of it. That's not just business. That's betrayal disguised as strategy.
Because now all of these players have equity and stake in these other leagues, and it's always been like this, and we've talked about it. I'm sorry if I'm rambling at this point, but I'm trying to wrap my mind around how any of this makes sense. Does this give them more leverage now? Does it make the conflict of interest worse? And my mind's kind of going to like, yeah, it makes it a bigger conflict.
And that's where the ultimate conflict begins. If the WNBA agrees to higher salaries but bans outside play, players like Annika, Stewart, and Plum would have to walk away from their new leagues. And they won't. If the league refuses, negotiations collapse. Either way, the WNBA loses leverage. And if that's the case, maybe this was never about negotiation at all. Maybe the goal was always to fracture the system, force competition, and watch the biggest names take their fame elsewhere while the WNBA burns from within. Because if Unrivaled and Project B rise, the WNBA falls. And some people seem perfectly fine with that. So, what does this all mean? It means we're watching a battle for the soul of women's basketball. A moment that will define whether the game unites under one vision or splinters into chaos. This isn't just about salaries or sponsorships. It's about loyalty, legacy, and leadership. The question now isn't, who gets paid more? It's, who stays when the money stops flowing? Because history will remember more than who got the biggest contract. It'll remember who protected the foundation when the walls started shaking. Nneka Ogwumike may have made a move for herself, but in doing so, she's forced the WNBA, and every player within it, to decide what side of history they want to stand on. And make no mistake, the next few months won't just shape the next season. They'll shape the next era,